Greetings, divans. Why do we choose spiritual paths? Very important question that we need to ask again and again ourselves. Or if we have forgotten, it's the right time again, right now to question, why am I on the spiritual path? The whole world is running in a certain way. If you look at the whole world, how the whole world functions, if you look at it very closely, if you observe it very closely, you will see that it's all dominated by the ego consciousness. The ego consciousness is what separates each soul from the highest potential or the highest reality, the reality that it is nothing but a spark of the supreme consciousness. It is the ego consciousness that keeps them not just separated, but keeps them dwelling in a world of their own where they become the creators of their own destiny. They create their own destiny through their own thoughts, actions, behaviors, and tendencies, and attract similar conditions into their life, which is what we call as karma. And they then experience it, which is known as bhoga, or the prarabdha bhoga. So all the bhog, all the experiences happens first with the will of the individual. Who is the individual? The individual that is the ego self. The one that is separated from the highest source. This is how the world functions, divans. When an awakening happens and a person realizes this fact and one wants to earnestly know, who am I? Where have I come from and where am I going? These three questions put the person on the track of spiritual paths, any paths that they may choose. Any path that any person chooses is a clear indication and is a volition or is a sankalpa or is a desire to transcend all the lower grossness of ego consciousness and transcend into that zone which is of higher consciousness. Because by this time one has realized through different bitter life experiences and lessons that this is not what I am and this is not what I deserve to be. And hence I must now find my way out of all these sufferings which has been created by my own self called the ego consciousness. I realize the ego is the cause of all my problems. My mind, which is a tool of the ego, is the cause of all my problems. And then the journey begins of how to transcend this ego consciousness and submit into something called the divine will. The free will starts losing its grip. Free will is ego consciousness. Free will loses its grip and divine will starts taking over. Divine will is surrender. Divine will is going with the flow. Divine will is acceptance of whatever happens in one's life, good, bad, ugly, without claiming, without judgment, without placing a label or an opinion on that life incident. Because whatever happens in my life, I know I have created it somewhere or the other. My master always said, you are 100% responsible for every single thing that happens to you. When one is in ego consciousness, one cannot accept this fact. The blame is always outside, this, that, he, she, they. It's never on the self. The self-acceptance and self-responsibility only begins when one seriously begins walking on the spiritual path, any path. The right spiritual path is that which shows you this, that it is you who are responsible and it is you who are to transcend all your own negative flaws. Whenever a seeker begins the journey on the path of enlightenment, the first challenge and obstacle that they face is their own mind, their own flaws, which surfaces up to be released. But if one is rooted in ego consciousness, it's very difficult to even identify these flaws as own flaws. The ego consciousness will love pointing all these miseries and problems to external factors and circumstances, and the soul never evolves. Most of the spiritual aspirants on the spiritual path take this journey in this manner, but what keeps many looping in the same pattern, and sometimes the rigidity of not wanting to let go of one's own rigid patterns and conditions and beliefs, keeps them in the loop of lifetime after lifetime, where similar experiences keep repeating. All life experiences are lessons that one is given in every lifetime, and until the lesson is complete, the episodes will keep repeating. The ego consciousness will always tell, life is a misery, and I am traumatic, and I am a victim of all these life conditions, and life has been repeatedly harassing me. Whereas the truth is, I harass myself. Until this is learned, life is very bitter. It will continue giving you repeated examples until you learn this fact and transcend it. If you don't learn it in a lifetimes of multiple opportunities, don't worry. You will have multiple lifetimes to repeat the same lesson. Until this is understood, there cannot be spiritual evolution. The problem or the main challenge or the obstacle that most of the spiritual aspirants face today in any path is the lack of awareness of this, what I am talking to you right now. Until this awareness blooms and surfaces and enlightens your life and shows your soul consciousness, the you, the real you, that this is how life functions and you got to get out of it. How do you get out of it? By not trying to escape and getting out of situations that life has placed you in, but trying to get out of that cocoon that you have embedded yourself in. What is the root cause of all this? The ego consciousness. The ego will never allow you to grow and evolve. Awareness shows you this. If awareness doesn't show you this, the only tool that you will have, even as a spiritual aspirant, will be your mind. You will try to do everything with your mind, the mind that is the root cause of the problem that you created in the first case. You ended up in that problem because of your mind, and now you are using the same tool to get out of it. Is that possible? My past life experiences, this life, and my multiple lessons that I have learned from life, and the multiple lessons that I have learned from mystics and seers and the great scriptures of the path, tell me this very clearly, that until I have awareness of this and until I operate from my awareness, my mind is always going to trick me. My mind will make me believe that what I do is right. What I think is right, what I feel is right. And the mind creates the illusion, showing me the illusion that I'm working on myself, whereas it's just the ego strengthening itself. Until I shift myself from the mind to the awareness, I will never have solution to this, because I'm tricked by my own mind. And I remain in ignorance, in darkness. This is the time when people approach me for personal consultations, because they have checked out all the options that they could do with the so-called analysis of life. Analysis happens in the mind by the ego consciousness. You cannot analyze your life with your mind if you are on the spiritual path. You can analyze it for worldly life. You cannot use the mind to analyze for your spiritual life. To analyze your spiritual life, you need awareness. The pure awareness, the unbiased, impartial awareness that will show you the light of the truth unbiasedly. It will be completely unbiased. That light of awareness will show you your own flaws, show you your own mistakes, show you your own wrong thinking, own wrong patterns, own wrong rigid thought patterns, own wrong belief systems, own wrong conditions, negative conditionings, own wrong tendencies. It is only when you have the guts, I repeat, it's only when you have the guts to look at yourself in complete awareness and then own responsibility for that. And when you own, you make an acknowledgement. When you make an acknowledgement that this is persisting in you and it is something that you need to transcend, mark my words, healing begins. Progress begins. The light of awareness begins clearing your path for the betterment. Until this acknowledgement and acceptance happens within you of the wrong patterns that you are responsible. You are the one who is creating and generating that energy. Nothing is going to change. The ego consciousness through the mind will keep you rooted and convinced that something else is responsible for your life. The factors outside are responsible for your life. And the same ego consciousness will make you think those thoughts that will want to control the life of yourself and control the life of others. This control comes from the ego consciousness. It wants to control the life events. It cannot have acceptance towards what's happening in life. It cannot settle down with the facts of life, with what's happening in life. It will always want to manipulate and control and dominate the circumstances of life because it has a feeling that I am in control. Who can be in control? It's the ego consciousness. Awareness is never in control. Awareness just observes and witnesses life the way it is, learns from it, never attaches itself to any outcomes, good or bad or ugly, and keeps moving on the path. This is the light of awareness. This is what I teach. This is what I guide people into. When people fail by operating their minds and all the paths and all the scriptures and all the techniques and methods that they've used, and they talk to me about it, I just point out to them that all these techniques, methods, thoughts, ideas, philosophies, all this you have been operating through your mind. That is why that mind is not at peace. That is why the mind cannot find solution, because the mind is already polluted with lot of old negative patterns and tendencies. That mind is rooted in the ego consciousness. And spiritual path is about destroying the ego consciousness and the mind. The spiritual path is all about destroying the mind itself. And how will the mind, which is the son or the child of the ego, want to ever kill itself and die? It will never allow you to kill itself. That is where the light shows you this. Light of awareness shows you this. It is only through awareness that you can transcend your ego consciousness, your mind consciousness. You can only transcend your mind, go beyond your mind by becoming a witnesser through that pure consciousness that you are. So when people talk to me about their life incidents, and when I try to show them this through the light of my awareness that I have been gifted through my masters and the beautiful spiritual world that I am connected with, first reaction is denial of any person, of almost all the person, because the light of awareness shows things so much in transparent that you are not able to digest it. Because all your life you have believed and lived in a certain pattern that this is what is right. And that right has never taken you to what is right. We must understand through this pattern that through your beliefs, if you believe your analysis and your mind is so strong and super duper fantastic and divine, then it should have led you out of darkness, but it is taking you more and more towards darkness. That is a clear indication that you are using the wrong tools in the wrong ways. So when you talk to anybody else who has better awareness about this, for example, if you have illness in your body, you approach a doctor because the doctor knows much better than you, but if you think that you know better than the doctor, you know what happens. If you have any problem, if you have problems with your neuromuscular issues, and you go to an expert like a physiotherapist, you trust that the physiotherapist knows much better than you. That is why you go to him or her and to take treatment. That is where the ego consciousness is surrendered to something smarter than you, something that knows better than you. But if I am rooted in my ego consciousness, I will want to always control my life. I will want to take all the things in my life, even if I do not know anything about it. Then I will not accept what the physiotherapist tells me, what the doctors tell me, what a consultant tells me, what a therapist tells me. Because I believe I know it, and I'll do it. And it's the same ego consciousness that never gives you the solution. So whenever you approach someone or surrender to somebody else's insights, because you have not been able to do it, I would always suggest go with that instinct that you have. Trust that process that somebody is trying to tell you for your own good. If you deny, nobody can help you. Not even your therapist can help you. If you go to the doctor and you act smarter than the doctor, and if he gives you certain pills and medications, and you choose to alter the medications, and you choose to choose your own medications, you know what happens? It's not wiseness. We must learn to trust whoever is giving that advice. What is that will tell us whether it's right or wrong? Our own awareness. Use your awareness to tackle all this. Use your awareness as your guidance systems to guide you to whoever is right for you, whichever path is right for you, whichever method is right for you, whichever solutions appeals to you. For that, surrender to the universe. You must allow others to heal you. If you are unhealed, you will push away the people who want to heal you, want to help you. Because that's the work of the ego consciousness. It doesn't want to be helped. And the one who doesn't want to be helped, my master used to always say, even God cannot help. God will not interfere with anyone's free will. So if it is my free will that I get better, or I choose to remain where I want to be with my own rigidity, no God can help us. So it is with this awareness that we must approach life. These are all common factors that I often have in my personal consultations, and that is what I commonly wish to share with all of you. How our approach should be and why we do not progress in a certain way that we expect ourselves to progress. The ego consciousness. The inability to let go of my own rigid patterns. So use the light of awareness, dear ones, not your mind. I've made enough videos to tell you, your mind will never help you. If you want to get rid of the miseries of your life, it's only awareness that you can choose and get out of. Do not use your mind for anything. That's all I have to tell you. But it's up to you if you want to help yourself. I always disconnect with anybody who's operating from the mind. I operate from awareness. I love people who operate from that frequency, because if I'm operating from awareness and somebody is operating from the mind and ego consciousness, there is a mismatch of that frequency. I pull back. So that is why when you sign up for all these personal consultation, it is your will, your desire to be there, and that helps me help you. Much divine love and light to you. Stay blessed.